subreddits. Hurry up, you moron.
My husband, who always rubbed me the wrong way, collapsed on the floor in a cold sweat. The paramedics arrived immediately. They quickly checked his condition, him on a stretcher. Then they said to me,
"Are you his wife, aren't you? Could with us to the hospital?"
My husband was put on the stretcher, looked at me with clinging eyes. I looked him right in the eye.
No, I will not.
I said it firmly, without hesitation. My husband's voice sounded like he had lost his mind.
This man is a stranger, so I'm not. Please, take care of the rest.
Wait, Lydia.
I then confronted my husband with S had been carrying in my pocket for a few days. The moment he saw it, his face turned paler.
How dare you treat me like a slave year after year? This is my revenge. I will never forget.
My name is Lydia. I am a 36-year-old housewife. I live in a rented apartment with my Caleb. I was introduced to Caleb by a colleague at work when I was still employed there. My colleague had many friends who were often invited to parties. I'm more of an introvert and I liked movies or cook by myself. I wasn't comfortable with large group activities, so I kept turning them down. One time, a colleague invited me to barbecue with his friends. At first, I refused as usual, but my colleague insisted, and I ended up participating. On the day of the barbecue, there was so many people there. One of them was Caleb, who later became her husband, was having a drink at a little distance from the group of people who were having a good time. Then, a colleague of mine came with. According to my colleague, he wanted us to meet each other because we seemed to have similar interests. I was surprised by the suddenness of it all, starting to talk to me. Caleb was nicely tanned and looked more like an outdoorsy type. When I actually talked to him, I found myself being sociable and humorous. I had thought that Caleb and I, who be alone and are indoor people, will get along. But as we talked, we found out that we had many common interests. Just as my colleague said, and we hit it off right away. We exchanged contact information and even made plans to meet up the next day off. We went out for dinner and shopping times, and we ended up dating. After several years of dating, Caleb proposed to me, and we got married. Caleb had always been kind to me if we started dating. He was the ideal man to take me out indoor lifestyle. That didn't change after we got married over the past few years. He started saying things that made me feel a little uncomfortable. I quit my job and became a housewife, which was what Caleb wanted me to do. However, he often makes sarcastic about it. For example, when I got sick and was late cooking dinner.
I'm home, Lydia. Hey, why my dinner ready yet?
Hi. Sorry, I was sick today. I had a fever and couldn't get up. Can you go take a bath first?
What? That, you're a nose wife, shouldn't you at least take care of the meat?
Caleb never worried about my health, made me very sad. Another time.
Hey, Caleb, there's a reunion coming hometown.
Suit yourself. Well, being a stay-at-home wife is great, you know. I envy you, Lydia. You get to play around with the money your husband makes.
He's usually so nice to me, carrying and bringing me flowers after work. But sometimes he acts like a jerk. I even thought that maybe he wanted work, so I suggested that I take a job. But Caleb insisted that was not In the end, I was still a full-time housewife. One day, one of Caleb's relatives see out of the blue. I picked up the phone, feeling a bit defensive. The relative on the other end of the line called my name in a panic.
Caleb's mother has collapsed.
I froze for a moment, unexpectedly. According to my relative, she had visited my mother-in-law a few hours ago. She found her mother-in-law lying on the floor. She called an ambulance. which rushed to the scene and took my mother-in-law to hospital. I prepared myself in a panic and ran out of the house. When I arrived at the hospital, I was told that her condition was still too unpredictable. As we were talking about this, Call ran in, out of breath. We moved into the hospital room with my mother-in-law. Sleeping in bed, my mother-in-law is covered with various tubes, and it was hard to watch. My husband called out to her, but she did not respond. Caleb stayed in the hospital room for the rest of the day, and I decided to go get everything I needed for the hospital stay. After a while, my mother-in-law was well enough to sit up in her bed. However, it is difficult to do anything without someone's help.
I'm glad she's able to get up. I wonder if she'll be able to continue doing her physical therapy.
When my mother-in-law's discharge date is coming up next week, I said this. Then he started to say something I understand.
Oh, yeah. Come to think of it, are you? We'll be leaving this house next week, so you better start packing our stuff.
I couldn't understand what he meant. Caleb looked annoyed, as if I didn't react properly.
We don't need this house, since we are living with my mom at my parents' house. You're still as damn as ever, aren't you?
Does that mean I'm going to have to live with my mother-in-law after she gets out of hospital? I never heard anything about that.
What? Did you decide to move in with me without talking to me? Have you already canceled the lease house?
When I said that, my husband became grumpy.
Of course, I've already cancelled that. It's the right thing for us to do as a family, to live together and help her. Don't tell me you don't want to live here, do you? I'm the one who makes our living. Accept any complaints.
He said so and went back to his room, taking deliberate footsteps. Never thought Caleb would take such a hardliner approach. I can't believe he's canceling this apartment. I have no choice but to move out. I know he's worried about his mother, but this is too much. I sighed deeply. A few days later, I was with my mother-in-law. I had never been a caregiver before, so everything was new to me. I had to spend most of my day feeding, bathing, and toileting for my mother. My mother-in-law didn't want me to be around her, and she hardly communicated. Furthermore, when I tried to talk to her, she would hide in bed saying she was ill. When my mother-in-law was healthy, we had a bad relationship. In fact, we sometimes exchanged delicious-looking snacks we found at the department store. Perhaps she was too frail to care for herself. On the other hand, my husband Caleb forced us to move in together, which was rare, in our home. After work, he would go out for drinks and come home in the morning. Even on his days off, he would find some reason to go out. And when he comes home, all he does video games in his room. I decided to talk to Caleb while he was playing games.
I know you can't avoid working over drinks with your colleagues, but can't you at least help me take your mother when you're at home? Or I'd like you to help me with the housework.
I say this, and Caleb replies without hesitation.
What are you being so naive? Housework and caregiving are both your jobs. I'm tired from working, you know. Oh, I'm almost out of coffee. Can you grab me some? And clean this room, okay? And oh, take these to the dry cleaners by Wednesday.
My husband spoke one-sidedly to me about his work clothes. This time, I was annoyed and retorted.
That's enough! I've been doing taking care of your mother every day past month without a break. Why can't you at least help me a little?
Caleb then slams the game controller the desk and stands up with a mighty,
How dare you speak to me like that? Do you think you own my livelihood? If you have a problem with me, then come on, get your shit together and, well, I feel sorry for my mom. She's going to be left alone with no one to take care of her.
That being said, I can't say enough about how much I love this product. It's true, I only have a little money up, and I can't leave my mother-in-law to do anything by herself. I held back, picked up his suit and room. After about 6 months of such a lifestyle, my mother-in-law suddenly passed away. I woke up in the morning and went to her like I always do, but that day no longer breathing. I called an ambulance and rushed her to the hospital, but it was too late. Caleb was in tears and sad. I don't know, but I couldn't cry. I felt cold when I saw Caleb crying hesitation. I thought to myself, you didn't have to help her. And when I realized that I didn't have to take care of her anymore, I felt a sense of relief. I felt guilty for feeling that way. Time passed so quickly. After the wake and funeral, I suddenly realized that 2 weeks had passed since my mother-in-law was gone. It's time to organize her belongings. After my husband left for work, I started cleaning my mother-in-law's room. I put her favorite clothes and accessories into the cardboard boxes, one after another. But there weren't many, so the work soon. Next, I opened the cabinet by my mother-in-law's bedside. There was almost nothing in it but a big can on the bottom shelf. I thought I had seen it somewhere before, but it was a tin of mixed sweets that I'd bought for her when she was still in good health. I wondered why it was there. There was a letter inside. When I picked up the envelope, I found the words, "Dear Lydia," on it. I hurriedly opened it and looked inside. In trembling letters, there was a me.
Lydia, I'm sorry for making you talk to me like that. I was also ashamed of my son, Caleb, how bad he was to you. Lydia, you should leave him and live life the way you want.
My mother-in-law knew everything. She knew that her son was being sold, that I was suffering from it. At the end of the letter, she wrote,
I am glad that I was able to spend the best years of my life with you, Lydia. Thank you for everything.
At that moment, I cried for the first time since my mother-in-law passed away. It was as if everything I had been back was flowing out of me. I cried until my tears ran dry and made up my mind. I would divorce my husband. 10 days had passed since I found the letter from my mother-in-law. My husband is still treating me like...
I'm missing one of my socks. Oh, and take my car to the car wash. You've got nothing to do, right?
He's going out with his colleagues golfing today. I guess he's completely forgotten about today's our wedding anniversary. Well, I don't even care about it any.
What are you gonna do while You can't just sit around, You have to cook, clean the kitchen and bathroom.
His arrogance left me speechless.
Hey, did you hear me? Bring me my black jacket. Hurry up or I'll be late.
At that moment, Caleb fell to the F, clutching his stomach. He was in pain and sweating. He told me to call an ambulance as trying to squeeze out the words. I froze at the suddenness of the sight, and my husband yelled at me.
Hurry up, you moron. Can't you even call an ambulance?
Hearing those words, I became strangely calm. Then I called 911, and within minutes, an ambulance and paramedics arrived. The paramedics quickly assessed Caleb's condition and placed him on a stretcher. As they put him on a stretcher, I followed them to the ambulance.
You're his wife, aren't you? Would with us to the hospital?
Caleb looked at me with pleading eye was placed on the stretcher. I looked him right in the eye and said, Sir, you are not allowed to park here. I said that firmly, with no hesitation. Caleb's voice came out as if he had mind.
This man is a stranger, so I'm not.
Then I confronted Caleb with something that had been carrying in my pocket for several days. It was the divorce papers that I was to sign when we had a fight a while. My husband had always told me that if I disobeyed him, he would serve me with divorce papers. Caleb tried to snatch the divorce me, but he cannot seem to move because of the stretching. He has to lean back on the stretcher. Any effort.
Excuse me, but please leave now.
As I said that, the paramedics found my husband dead. In the ambulance, he must have been as a poor husband whose wife has divorce. He should be embarrassed. I watched the ambulance leave and then the house. It took a long time, but the divorce was finally finalized. While Caleb was in the hospital was busy packing my belongings and them to my parents' house. Then one day, I ran into Caleb when the grocery store.
Lydia, please don't do this to me. You love me, don't you? Please don me. I admit I've made some mistakes. You listen to me no matter what so I just got carried away.
The overbearing attitude he had before is gone, and he looks completely different.
What do you mean the deal is already finalized? It's too late for you to act so frag ahead. Live your life as you please.
He didn't really think I was going him, and he looked quite shocked. His hands were shaking, and his face was turning pale.
Well, that's that then. Bye.
It had been 6 months since Caleb divorced. Caleb had once visited my house. He had been ringing the intercom at his parents' house and calling out my name loudly, so I had no choice but to answer. Sure enough, Caleb wanted me to get together with him. When I kept quiet, he began to reveal his current lifestyle to me. He can't cook because he has forced all the housework. He eats only TV dinners or eats out. He has gained 10 pounds since the diet. It's true that he put a lot of fat face and stomach that you can see at glance. In addition, he doesn't seem to know how to do laundry. The shirts he wears are wrinkled and smell weird, making him look even filthy.
I finally realized how great you hate Lydia. If I don't do something, the people company won't like me.
Caleb said so and started sobbing, tears. In other words, he wants to treat me servant again. There's no way I'm going back to that.
No, never. If you make any more noise, call the police.
I treated him like he was a stranger. Then Caleb seemed to be afraid of the police and left the house crying. I'm sure he won't get involved anymore, hopefully. My ex-husband seemed to be leading an inconvenient life. On the other hand, I was leading a comfortable life. For a while, I was staying at my parents' house, but now I rent a small apartment and live alone. My standard of living is much lower since I lived with my ex-husband, but I still like this life that IQ own time. I thought it would be difficult to another job at my age, but a friend happened. To have a friend who was able to get a job to take her PI. I feel so happy to be able to spend money only on myself without anyone me what to do. From now on, I want to take care of my own pace. It's the start of a new chapter in life.
Call an ambulance.